Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about RoboCop. And this movie came out in 1987, directed by Paul Verhoeven, the same director as Starship Troopers and Total Recall, the original Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger, not the remake from 2012 or 2011. I haven't seen it yet, but I like Total Recall a lot. Out of everything I've seen, I think that's my favorite. And this one I thought was decent. I've seen this movie before. I can't really say I love it. I think I liked it a bit more back then, but rewatching it as an adult and kind of comparing it to Total Recall, it doesn't quite impact me as much as Total Recall. But that's not to say that this movie offered me nothing. Like, I really enjoyed the first half of this movie, and I liked the story and what it was trying to explore. And it was basically just like man versus machine, like who's in control. And I liked what it was exploring with that. And I also liked the kind of old future, like mixing like 80s technology with what could possibly be futuristic technology. I like that environment a lot. And the world that this movie takes place in, it's pretty depressing and like an dark and violent, and crime is out of control. And I like how fast that was established because for a couple of reasons. A, it gets you into the mindset of what these characters are up against, and B, it also shows that it doesn't waste any time. I also like the violence in this movie. It's not afraid to be bloody, and there's not like violence in every single scene in this movie. And it's not as extreme as something like Total Recall. I think the violence was a bit more extreme in that movie from memory, but that's not to say there aren't bloody moments in this film. And when the main character is on screen, RoboCop, or Murphy, whichever name you want to call him, that's when the movie works best for me. Whenever he's on screen, I'm with the movie. When he's not, it kind of loses me, but I still got a few other positives left to go over before I start getting into my negatives. I like the tone of the movie. It's very clear. It's trying to be an action movie, and although there isn't like a ton of action in the movie, I do think that it succeeds at being an action movie because it's not boring or poorly shot, and it's handled well, and that's what I like about it. But I do have one criticism with the action, but I'll get into that later. And my last positive is that I like the over-the-top villains in this film. I think they're fun to watch, and they're very entertaining for me. Now, to get into my first issue with the movie, I didn't really like the quick flashbacks in the surgery scene. I thought that those were unnecessary and didn't need to be there. And outside of that, I like the scene, but it's just that it's all information that we just saw or got from the characters, and you kind of have to be stupid not to catch up on that. And I just didn't like it being treated as though I was stupid. And for a while, you don't really see RoboCop arresting people. Not saying that is a huge criticism, but I don't know. It just felt like he just throws them around or just like kills them instead of like actually arresting them for much of the movie. I'm like, are you a cop or a murderer? What are you? And my only criticism with the action scenes is that they feel a little too video gamey for me, because RoboCop's basically invincible in these scenes for most of them, and he doesn't really get hurt, especially in the first half, and you just don't really feel anything. I was like, why are we being shown this invincible guy who can do anything, basically? Like, why do we feel any tension as though like something bad could happen to him? Like, I just don't feel anything. When this movie did use effects, unless it was like practical effects, it was also using like stop motion that was like really noticeable and not great looking. And there was a little bit of CG towards the end that didn't look too great. And the visual effects overall just don't really work in this movie, in my opinion. When they're practical, they look great. Like the explosions, those looked awesome. And there's a lot of explosions in this movie, and they're all convincing. I just don't like the stop motion on the one big machine, whatever it's called. And I also did kind of feel the runtime in the second half of the movie because I didn't really care about what was going on too much. And I think that has to do with the fact that I don't really care about the characters. I wasn't super attached to any of them. And I was just waiting for the movie to end and felt like the movie was a bit too long. Also, some of the characters I just felt were a little underdeveloped. And one last thing, this isn't really a negative, this is just a little nitpicky thing that stood out to me. Early on in the movie, when we get our first action scene in the movie, it's like police officers going after criminals because they robbed a bank and they're using tubs to carry all the money. And I kid you not, those tubs looked exactly like the tubs that are used in the USPS. They looked identical to those things, and I was like, that's something that kind of stands out to me, which is kind of funny. But that's about all I have to say about RoboCop. It was decent. I liked it enough, and I didn't regret watching it, but I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, to be honest. I think I'd much rather watch Total Recall, because personally, that movie just sells me what I want and what I'm looking for from the overall cheesy experience of 90s action movie. I know this is an 80s action movie, but I think I just prefer 90s cheese as opposed to 80s cheese. Something about it just works for me when it's 90s cheese, because it just feels a bit more dedicated to it and just doesn't hold back. And as far as 80s cheese goes, I don't quite know what to say about it. Yeah, I do like it, but something about it just doesn't sit right with me. Not saying that as a bad thing, I'm just saying that as a thing that I don't quite know how to communicate. So definitely check this movie out whenever you get the chance. Despite all my criticisms, I did like it enough to give it a positive rating. And I know a lot of people love this movie and would probably rate it a lot higher than I am. But don't let me stop you from enjoying it. So with all that being said, I'm going to give RoboCop, the original from 1987, a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of RoboCop, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Noah. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.